This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Being grateful is synonymous with expressing our feelings for others and for ourselves. We can also feel a lot better about ourselves and our lives by simply speaking words of love and praise to others. In order to feel grateful, you must feel the right way about the right things and at the right time. Motivation and self-discipline are inextricably linked. Although it does not provide instant relief from pain or stress, it gives us a feeling of being in control again. Gratitude gives us control over our lives. By acknowledging and appreciating our assets, gratitude empowers us. In the words of Robin Sharma, gratitude drives happiness. Happiness boosts productivity. Productivity reveals mastery, and mastery inspires the world. Valeria interviews Kia Ebedat. He is a licensed marriage and family therapist, life coach, and CEO of Resilience Coaching and Counseling. Kia has 7 years of experience working with clients of all ages who struggle with anxiety, depression, relationship issues, current life challenges, and has helped them overcome obstacles to reach their full potential. Not everything was so simple for Kia growing up. After realizing soccer was not his passion anymore, Kia struggled with finding his purpose. In his 20s, Kia felt hopeless and had no direction in life. He dealt with the pressure of not meeting his family's expectations and compared himself to other family members who were doctors, lawyers, and very successful. This created a lot of insecurity, stress, and anxiety, which led him down a path of self-destructive patterns such as partying, using alcohol, and drugs. Until one day, he picked up a Tony Robbins book and realized that his struggles and challenges were gifts for him to lead him to a resilient life. Kia worked on changing his habits that created problems for himself and began learning and becoming a student of life. With the help of gratitude, meditation, and coaching, Kia was able to connect with his passion and purpose. He became a licensed therapist where his life took off. He stopped comparing himself to others, created his own path in life, and followed his intuition. Kia is very passionate about what makes individuals so motivated and have the ability to overcome anything that comes their way. He has read lots of books and interviewed successful individuals in relationships, business, finance, and personal growth, and has realized that your beliefs and your values create resilience and success in your life. If you believe you can do it, then anything is possible. Sprinkle that with gratitude, and great things will come your way. We all have resilience in us. We are capable of achieving anything we want and reaching our full potential. Meet Kia at resilienceCouns.com. Here's the interview with Kia Ebedat.
In your own words, who is Kia Ebedat?
Kia Ebedat is a student of life. He loves to learn and grow in all areas of his life. He makes mistakes here and there, but he does his best to learn. I try to learn from them and grow to reach my full potential. And that's being, reaching my full potential as a husband, as a stepfather, as a business owner, as a licensed marriage family therapist, a son, a brother. And in the midst of that, I, do my best to be grateful, have gratitude for everything so that I don't lose focus on who I am.
That's beautiful. I love the way you say that, you phrase that, a student of life.
When did that come to you? This description of yourself. It's a beautiful one, though.
Oh, thank you.
When did that happen?
So, I mean, in my life, kind of growing up, I had I was basically kind of like an only child. My siblings were a lot older, 17 and 14 years older. And so, my parents were, they came from Iran, so they spoke mostly Farsi and not a lot of English. So I had to like really teach myself. But one thing that was always important to me was always trying to feel accepted by other people. And and so I instead of like understanding and really learning that I am enough, like I don't need to change myself, I was always just trying to feel accepted, and I stopped like trying to learn from my parents, trying to learn from people that were already in my life, and I stopped really, I don't know, I was just very stubborn. I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and that created a lot of obstacles in my life. I never learned about spirituality or anything like that, and I was very, I not open-minded. I was very closed-minded when it comes to spirituality or people teaching me new things. I kept thinking like, no, I know that, and it created a lot of problems in my career and my relationships. And then the moment I started actually really just understand that I don't know it all, that I'm always going to be growing throughout life and I'm always going to be learning. I started just opening up the book and having more thoughtful and creative conversations with people. And I realized, and I think, I don't know who I really learned it from. And I remember someone saying, you need to be a student of life because we're constantly learning new things. And when I started taking that concept, that allowed me to feel free in my own anxiety, but also know that I am good enough. And I started learning a lot more, and I became happier and peaceful in my life.
Yes, that resonates true to me. It's exactly how I feel. I love when I'm curious. I'm very curious about everything. Although something in me says that I know already certain things, but I don't listen to that voice. No, 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 no. I really love learning from different people, different perspectives on the same topic. It's just amazing how it's different because we are all different. That's what in unique.
Yeah.
So how amazing. I mean, life becomes so much more colorful when we are open. And I'm glad you came to that conclusion in a way, if it is one. You spoke about spirituality. What is your idea of spirituality these days?
I do believe, in God. I also believe in the universe. I believe that we're all connected. And we all have a purpose in this world. I read a book called Biology of Belief, and what his name, Bruce Lipton was the writer, and he said something about like how humans and plants and animals were created. We were created of a community of cells, where this community worked together. They all had a purpose to create these lives, this human life that we have right now. And so I really do believe that everything kind of happens for a reason. Like life is constantly giving us clues, whether it's from the universe, whether it's from God, they're always giving us these omens and these hints, this path. And as long as we're being present in the moment and grateful about around us, we can listen to these and follow that path. And that's kind of where I think my spirituality. I hope that answers the question.
The idea of everything having a reason to be, that's an interesting one that I have been dancing with for a long time. Because a lot of times it doesn't make sense that some people have to suffer so much, especially children, that they suffer. Sometimes they're born already with illnesses and they're already in pain from that moment. And I wonder what that is. But then if we go deeper, we might get that answer. That's the soul's purpose, just that child has a soul that agreed to go through the experience. But I wonder what they could learn so young. They are born ill, they suffer with pain, and then they die very young too.
Yeah.
So, and then I wonder, that's something that I'm always curious about it, and I do ask questions. Although I do tend to go into direct teachings like Vedanta, that, I don't know if you heard about it, that's Hindu spiritual teaching that shows clearly that this is just it's not really, we are not having an experience, we are actually dreaming everything. So that kind of makes more sense in a way. I know for most people it won't make sense, but it does to me. That we are actually dreaming all this. It's not even created, it's just that we are dreaming. Well, but that's a different podcast interview. Who knows? Here we'll talk about that later on. Let me ask you a question about purpose. What do you feel is the purpose of the human experience? And what is your purpose at this time? And how did you also come to that place or space, if it is one, of having a purpose?
Purpose, yes. So, I mean, real quick, the first question you asked?
The purpose of the human experience as a whole, like what is this all about in a way?
Yeah. So, in my words and in my life and my experiences, I believe that, the purpose is, I believe that a lot of us are here to do something. There's a path for us. And I believe that at the end of the day, it helps bring us together. We're all working together to create this life, this human experience that we call life. And I believe that we all have this, whether we're therapists, whether we're teachers, whether we're some kind of healer, whether engineers or, creating, a grocery store, where we all have this duty in life that helps all of us, feel more healthier, to connect with one another, to live a life full of peace and happiness. And so that's kind of where does that answer that question a little bit?
Yes, right. And it's one that makes sense from that perspective of the human experience. Yeah, as a human. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And for me, like, I feel like my purpose, I've, growing up, I've always just been, I love people. I guess that's kind of one of my strengths a little bit. And I think I got it from my parents. Definitely were very social. We love to connect. I literally talk to every single person, whether it's in line at the grocery store, whether it's just walking, saying hi. Like I love people, and I love putting smiles on people's faces. And one of my main work was, what really makes people happy, what really helps people overcome their challenges, what gets them to smile, what gets them to have a good day. And I cared so much about that. And I felt like just that feelings that I always had, that idea of like, I just want to be around people all the time and I want to help them, want to guide them. I realized that is my purpose. And that's why I became a therapist and a coach, to help people like reach their full potential and find the good in life. And even though you've been through these harsh experiences, there's like meaning, there's a gift behind it for you to grow.
Yeah, you put a smile on my face, that's for sure. When you talk about this feeling of connecting with others, saying hi to everybody, that's just beautiful. It almost sounds like a child, being a child, having that child's heart open. It's truly beautiful.
Yeah.
You said something interesting in your bio. You write, I stopped comparing myself to others and created my own path in life and followed my intuition. So comparison, that is, it's something that I know that it's so unhealthy. I remember doing that before when I was really young, and the consequence of that was just so painful, trying to be like somebody else. So talk to me for a moment about that. How did that end? How did you find the path away from that? How did you stop comparing yourself?
Yes. So comparing, it happens a lot. Right now we have social media. We have so many things that we see, so many people's lives, and often, everyone's posting what's right, what's happy, what's good. Not a lot of us are posting like the true obstacles and problems that we go through. And I think that's kind of what I got in trouble with a lot, and I'll answer the question just really quick. Like I I had a lot of very successful peers at a young age in my 20s that did really well, and did so much with their lives. And I was still going to grad school, and I was still a broke college student at 26, 27. And, and it kept bringing me down. I kept focusing on things I didn't have. And when you constantly focus on things you don't have, you're going to create anxiety, depression. You're going to want to give up. You're not going to be present in your moment so that you can have the future you want. And honestly, one of the biggest gifts of my life, and I get kind of emotional, is my wife. This is when I truly believe that things are meant to be. When I became in a relationship with my wife, I she's very grateful for everything in her life. She's had her own experiences, and nothing in her experiences that she just really like loved herself and really appreciated everything that went through, that she experienced. And one of the things that when we connected, I was very hard on myself. I expected myself to make this much money. I expected myself to be in this place, and she kept nailing it in my head, like, your experience is way different. They're not going to grad school. They're not trying to be this person. You're doing totally things different. And it really, and I really cared about what she said, because I really had this, like, I look up to her, like I really trusted in her. And so I had to do a lot of therapy. I did a lot of therapy. I did a lot of personal work, and I had to actually take some time off of social media to really reconnect with myself. I had to do a lot of meditation, really get a sense of who I am again. And so just doing these little practices and kind of doing the opposite of what comparing does. Comparing, you're just, seeing if, what things you don't have and try, just saying, oh, this person's better than me. Instead of saying that, I just said that I am in my own place. I am here for a reason. And my path, I talk about this with clients, like we have early bloomers and late bloomers, in terms of maybe success in other areas. Maybe I'm just a late bloomer, and I can be fine with that. And that's my journey. So
I love how genuine you are, describing the experiences that you went through to be who you are today. So that's what we need more to see in this world. More honesty, just not being, it's not even fear, just trusting enough ourselves to just be ourselves. That's what it is. There's a trust component there. That's what I see. And I do know that we need to trust others too when it comes to relationships and connecting. And then what comes to me is that what you said earlier, that put a smile on my face about just connecting with other people, that desire to be around people. So how do we balance that? How do we balance connecting with others and at the same time connecting with ourselves, or remaining connected to ourselves?
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's one of the biggest kind of obstacles that we kind of go through, because one thing that kind of comes to mind is that we kind of and we talk about purpose a little bit, and sometimes we're not living on our purpose, we're living for other people's purposes. So we're surrounding ourselves with people that really don't align with our values, don't align with our beliefs about the world. We change these values, beliefs, just to connect, just to be able to connect with these other people who are in a different type of life than we are, or different experience. And so one of the things, and I do this with myself, I even do this with my kids a lot too.
Yeah.
Is really about, like, what do you value? What's really important to you? And I think about, like, love. Is it love? Is it success? Is it, happiness? Is it peace? Is it freedom? And every day, and what you got to do is making sure that, figure out, define that. Like, if it's love, what is love? And for me, it's like spending quality time with my friends and family, and spending quality time with myself, doing things that are good for me, that are healthy for me, and making sure that I'm growing. And so And so I realized when you learn about what you value, what's important to you, and you practice this every day, you just do little reminders. It takes like 1 minute to just do a little reminder, 10 seconds to do little reminders about who you are and what you want life to be about for you. That's when you start connecting with people who have the same kind of values and beliefs, and relationships start becoming not something that's so distracting or overwhelming. It becomes something that's just a part of you. It goes with the flow, and you're able to kind of connect a lot easier. And it's no games like that we play at a young age. There's no games like that. Everyone is who they are. And I do believe the energy you put out, you receive as well.
I agree. Values. I just try to, a lot of times, to kind of define values and beliefs, because, they can overlap in a way. Do you see values and beliefs being one and the same? Are they different from your perspective?
Yeah, no, great question. Yeah, they're different, but they work together. We start, in our life, we start with this belief, this idea about ourselves and about the world. I mean, this comes from childhood, from our parents, our experiences. And, some of us grow up with this, and this is a very common belief, this negative belief about ourselves, like that we're not feeling worthy, and this feeling of worthy. And so when we're not feeling worthy, we're constantly repeating it in our head over and over again. And so what are we going to do? We're going to try to find ways to either complete that belief or find ways to think like, okay, what can I do so I don't feel this? And so sometimes when we're carrying on this belief, that's where our values come in. That connects us with values of like, well, love, but instead of being with someone who really loves you for you, and it's like an equal partnership, you're going to end up doing everything because you feel like you're not good enough. So you have to overcompensate so that you can see your true value in you. And so our beliefs is like kind of what starts, what we believe, like how we are, and then our values is like our direction. It kind of directs us in that way of where our belief.
Okay, they work together then. Yeah, that makes sense too. What is your greatest value, Kia, today at this time?
I mean, on my number one, and I have it for me, and I have it kind of for my company too, is, and I know this is very common, everyone's kind of, a lot of people say it, is love. Because, we live in kind of a world where, we can't really explain human behavior. I'm from Iran, and they're going through their own protests and, everything like that. And I realized, there's not a lot of love for one another, and only for ourselves. And then it comes from a lot, we're trying to battle, we're trying to battle the demons. We're trying to, we're not forgiving. We're not being grateful. We're taught to just hold on to all of this emotions. And sometimes when you're holding on to pain and hurt and suffering for so long, you don't have love anymore. And instead you have hate, and then you send that energy out. And I had that in my heart for a while. And, I lost relationships. I lost friendships. People didn't want to be kind of near me at some points. And I realized that's not who I am. That's not who I was raised to be. That's not who I wanted for myself. I talked to my inner child. I was like, no, that's not who you are. And so when I noticed, I started loving me for who I am today and my experiences. And I started every day appreciating my wife, my kids, and everyone around me, and just loving my whole life. It opened my eyes. Like I felt more clarity, more freedom. So that's why love is like my top value.
Yeah. When did you learn that? Is that something that's learned, or it's something that is uncovered, rediscovered?
It was definitely learned. I mean, I was loved, I was appreciated, but there was a lot of tough love in my family. My dad was in the military. My mom, she loved us. She loved us, but because my dad had that tough love, I always wanted his love more because I wanted to appreciate, I want him to love me and everything. And so, and that kind of trained me to always work hard for love, do your ultimate hard so people can love you. And so when I realized that it was creating obstacles in my life, that I had to kind of change the meaning of love for me and repeat it in my mind over and over again and start acting on that belief and that value. And so that's kind of how I learned it.
Right. And what is the meaning of love for you today? How would you describe that?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Love to me is, I do believe it's unconditional and conditional. 2 points, because unconditionally is like the love you have when your kids are born, and kids are just kids, they're not doing anything to hurt you, but sometimes we feel like they do, but we got to love them for their experiences and everything that they're changing, they're reacting. You got to appreciate that. You just got to just be there in the moment and, and love them and not just love, but just care for them. And I think it's just understanding that people go through their own experiences and they might have moments where they say something negative or they react. And part of love is learning to really understand that and not think that everyone needs to be perfect. Everyone needs to be nice to you and say things. People have boundaries and some days they don't want you close. They want you from a
True.
You gotta know that. And so
True.
I think love is just really being respectful and just being understanding and just loving the person for who they are. And then, and obviously as you get close, like me, my wife, it's unconditional, but then again, it's conditional in some ways as well. We expect, she expects me to make sure I always tell her I love her, I do that for my husband, but I always make sure that I tell her that I appreciate her, whether it's sending a short text, and then obviously our duties as a mother and father, we work together. And so as long as I'm doing my part, she can do her part. And so that's the conditional part. But at the end of the day, it's because we want to be with each other and be close to each other. And we want to learn and grow with each other to just reach our full potential.
Oh my God. And that's, I love that. All the things you said about love, especially understanding, there's something that always catch my attention when it comes to understanding, because that means going deeper into the knowledge of why something's happening instead of reacting or judging the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that means a lot to me for some reason. And when you say reaching our full potential, what is the picture of that? What do you see as your full potential?
And I've always had this thing where that I wanted to have this much money and have this kind of, family and everything. But I don't think that I will ever have a clear picture of like what my full potential will ever be. I don't think I have like this ending, and I don't think part of life is to really, there's nothing, never, we shouldn't have this target, like this end goal. Because once we reach that end goal, we're gonna want more.
Yes.
We're gonna want more out of this. We're gonna, whether it's a better, more money, whether it's more from our relationship, maybe our intimate relationship we want more of, and our interests change. So it's, for me, the full potential means like that I'm always constantly learning. And I'm finding ways to improve myself, whether, we'll talk maybe in relationship, like as me as a husband, that, I notice me and my wife have been together for 7 years. And so I notice every couple of years she kind of changes a little bit, interest changes. And so, in order to reach my full potential husband, I got to make sure that I'm, appreciating her changes and supporting it. And joining it with her if I can, and always being there. And so I don't think it's like this concrete thing that I think full potential is, but my thing is making sure that I'm open-minded, that I'm learning, and that I'm always working hard to make sure that I'm doing what I need to fulfill that role.
That also resonates very much true. No destinations, just this beautiful journey of discovering and uncovering. That really sounds like more of whatever we call the truth behind all this. Another question that comes to me, we'll be talking about gratitude in a few minutes. You mentioned the word appreciation, and I love that word too. And I usually use in my emails in the end, much love and appreciation, or whatever I say with kindness and appreciation for some reason. So do you see, is there a distinction between appreciation and gratitude? Kia, what they are the same?
Yeah. Um, Honestly, I think they're kind of similar in a way. Appreciation to me is just like really loving. I think it's, I have to really think about this a little bit. It's, when I think about appreciation, like appreciating my life, appreciating things around me, it's just I am being like thankful. And I guess it is a little bit to gratitude. It's just being very thankful and thankful that I'm alive, thankful for everything that's happened in my life, and thankful for just every experience in life, because, we get caught up in what we don't have, right? We get caught up in like, oh, this situation wasn't good. This friendship wasn't good. This was bad, negativity. And so we are repeating all that in our heads all the time. And so, and we don't realize that this human experience of life is very much, like you said, it's kind of, whether it's as a dream, right? It's a spiritual experience that we're having, and we forget that. And I think part of being appreciative, being thankful for what you do have, it allows you to really be allows you to enjoy this life. I hope that defined it.
Yeah. Of course, I love to hear that, because that's something that for some reason, it's almost like intellectually attracted to the idea that this is an experience, and going beyond that is not even an experience. So it's almost like a gift, freedom in itself, this moment now in what's happening. So why not appreciate it and have gratitude for it? And I do feel like they are the same too, but for some reason, when I write and speak, it has changed, and I say a lot more. I use the word appreciation more than gratitude. I just wonder why now. I don't know exactly why. Appreciation sounds more immediate, more like in the moment. There's this almost like this intimacy in it, like, oh, I appreciate this, in a sense, almost holding it and embracing it, whatever it is. So maybe that's what it is. And gratitude sounds like bigger, broad, like, oh, I appreciate life itself and all this. I don't know. That's how it comes to me. Not sure if that might only make sense to myself.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think there's something about appreciation that kind of, it's more in the moment. It's just more right now. It's, it's something that I use all the time. Like I always say, like, I appreciate you. I appreciate this. Like it's the word that kind of fits. And I think that's just with our minds that we connect really well with this word, which is grateful. I think you're right. It's a very broad word, and it might not feel as intimate. And it's really like loving it, with one another. So totally understand that. I agree with you.
Going into the topic of gratitude, but before that, I had a question for you. Yeah, about intuition early on, and then I made a note here. How does intuition fit into values and beliefs, Kia? How do you fit intuition into that?
It's definitely a really thing that I really like enjoy. Like I always say, like, really follow your intuition, and we shall allow our intuition to guide us. I think that part of intuition, to me, my intuition comes from you. It's inside. It's just who you really are. It's these things that that's right. It's kind of like your gut feeling, like follow your intuition, follow your gut. And we've, growing up, we grew up like for example, me, like I grew up thinking and believing like what I believe is not right. I wanted to be a therapist all my life. My dad, my parents, they're very loving, amazing people, but they're like, well, why don't you be a lawyer? Why don't you be a doctor? Why don't you do this? But they're always kind of felt like shutting down my ideas, even though they just wanted the best for me. But, and sometimes I just learned that, like, maybe I'm not right. When you raise your hand in class and you say something and people laugh at you, you just feel like, okay, I'm not going to raise my hand. I'm not going to say what I want. And when we're not following our intuition, what we believe, what we think, what we feel, and how we feel like we should act, that it really closes. It's basically we're killing our unborn potential. We're killing our true selves. And then so I feel like intuition is just that deep, that person that really who we are. That's who truly our true selves that's speaking out. And I think when we allow ourselves to really listen to ourselves and meditate and really think and allow to think and say what we want and act however we want, that's our intuition. That's who we are. That's who we are. And we're speaking from our intuition, from what we really want.
The topic today, more specifically, it's gratitude and how it leads to resilience and success in all areas of our lives. So what is the connection between gratitude and resilience, Kia?
Yes. And so I am very passionate about these two things. Resilience is my whole practice is called resilience. So gratitude. So if we really think about when it comes to resilience, right? Resilience is the ability to overcome obstacles that come our way, right? Be able to face our obstacles and problems and find solutions, have some clarity to have solutions, and be able to be in a very calmer state of mind to overcome anything. And so, and the great thing about gratitude, and there's been research that's done it from like UCLA and Harvard and everything, they've done pretty good research on gratitude, which is that when we're grateful for things, being grateful for things is focusing on what we have. It's being appreciated, like we just talked about, being thankful of the experience that we have or the people in our lives and the things that we have. And so what this does is that when we're constantly being grateful and appreciative, what this does, it actually triggers our limbic system, which is in our brain. And our limbic system has those parts of the brain that control like memory, learning, and emotional regulation, the amygdala and the hippocampus. And so research shows that when you're constantly being grateful, when you're making it your daily practices, this calms down those negative emotions like fear and flight. Like I either want to fight or flight. You want to like escape or avoid or fight. This being grateful actually calms down those parts of your brain, those emotions. And it releases two neurotransmitters, which is dopamine and serotonin. And these are like the most amazing, like hormonal things that we can feel, because dopamine is that the neurotransmitter that releases like pleasure. It makes us feel excited, has energy, motivation. And then serotonin is the one that actually makes us happier, makes us feel less anxious, and actually makes us focus better. And so all these things were linked to gratitude. And they did a study with people who were grateful and who weren't grateful, or who did grateful practices and who didn't do grateful practice. And it was shown that they were a lot happier, less anxious, more focused on whatever activity they had to do in that research example. And why this is important is that when we're grateful, we're able to feel less anxious, calm, happier. We're motivated. We're getting like that energy. And that's what we need to be able to be resilient in life, because in our life, we have a lot going on. We have family to take care of, friends, we have our work, we have our own personal stuff. And if we're not learning, if we can't juggle all that, it gets overwhelming. And now we have social media. We have so many news and information constantly going through our head. It's a lot, that we go through in life. And so if we can be in the moment and think about what we're grateful for, what we appreciate, what we're thankful for. It will help us feel more like excited, pumped for our day. And whenever an obstacle comes our way, instead of thinking of what's wrong about the obstacle, we're able to be like, wow, what is right about this? There's something about this obstacle that I need to be thankful for, because it's going to teach me something really good, and I'm going to learn from it and grow. So that's kind of my connection.
That sounds like a magic pill for happiness and health. And it really is, though. I have done a lot of experiments myself. I experiment with all these things. And I know sometimes it's not easy. It sounds very simple to be grateful, but it's not easy for some of us. I noticed, is that because the brain has been changed, Kia, in some of us who have experienced trauma, or have some sort of mental disorders, then it's harder, right, for them to understand these concepts and to engage in these practices.
Yes, it's our experiences, and it's that, I think of our brains, our minds as muscles, right? So the more we the repetition, and then we create this muscle. And so yeah, it's a lot of repetitions. What we repeat constantly when we go through trauma or abuse, some kind of traumatic experience. Our brain is, that part of our brain that's like, I just want to run away. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to do this. And we create this story that life is always going to be like this. And we believe something, it also makes it seem like it's permanently going to be there. It's always going to be there. So it's about training your mind. And it's, I've worked with people who've gone through a lot of trauma, a lot of really hurtful, terrible, really, it breaks my heart, the kind of experiences that they go through. But it's just coming in for yourself, putting yourself first, and just doing small steps. It's not like you got to be grateful, you're going to do it right away. It's literally taking 10 seconds out of your time, and then eventually getting to the point where you're doing 15, 20 minutes of just stuff for yourself. And so it definitely takes a lot of work. I mean, it's up to you how long it takes, but I think that it's just repetition. It's just helping you learn and practicing these exercises as much as you can. And sometimes we need therapy, some coaching to help guide us and be there and support us along the way, because in our environment, they're not on that level. We're doing something that's out of our norm, out of our environmental norm. So, yeah.
That is so true. The information that I heard, I don't know when, probably 3 months ago or longer than that people who have experienced trauma, they tend to be very negative. So because they expect everything, all those experiences, bad experiences, to happen again. That really caught my attention, because I remember being that way myself, because I experienced a lot of trauma in childhood, and I remember expecting everything to just repeat itself. And that's because the brain was programmed that way. How amazing. The great news that you are speaking of now, that you're giving, the message that you're passing on now, is that we can change that. So the brain, it's built the way it is because of practice, that kind of practice, unfortunately, trauma. And it can change again to become more positive with practice. So that's wonderful news.
Yeah, and one other thing is that we have to kind of understand, and this is to give us a little bit of break, is that our brains, you have to think of it as kind of old, because it's been trained by generations and generations of people. So our brains are just trying to survive. They're just don't do any risky stuff. Just eat your program, watch Netflix all day, just chill. Don't do anything. It's going to cause too much trouble. And so that's where we have to come in, in whatever experience we have, is that we have to kind of, train our brain, like you say, and take control. We do have control. We definitely do. But, but when you go through something like that, it's so understandable why it's not like that. But you can definitely do it. And it's just, it does take practice and time for yourself, which we do have. We just got to make it a priority.
Yes. And we need support. That's another, you mentioned that earlier. And I really appreciate you doing what you do, Kia, because we need that support. And I remember I looked for support a lot myself. I never done therapy, but I went the spiritual way. So I did a lot of reading, a lot of those retreats, meditation, all that. So that was my path in a way, or that for some reason that's what I did to come to where I am today, the almost rewire of the brain, which it's great to know. And gratitude was a huge part of it. And that's interesting that we are talking about gratitude, but that for me was a spiritual practice. Of course, the first one was acceptance of everything that had happened, the way it happened. There's an article you sent to me on the neuroscience of gratitude and effects on the brain that it says, I think from the very beginning, we all want a happy life. How often do you spare a minute to think what we already have at this very moment? And that's the whole practice. Is that simple, Kia? Just being appreciative and grateful in the moment, remembering that?
Well, I mean, and then I know that's, I mean, obviously, for some of us, it takes a lot of pain and effort to do that, but if we think about like what the act of just sitting there with ourselves and being grateful does, right? So a lot of us, we don't put ourselves first. We're doing things for other people, right? And just remember, this is the beliefs. These are our values. Like we need to do more. We need to, we don't matter. And so when we're doing just the act of putting ourselves first, that alone right there is reprogramming our mind slowly. Like our mind's like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you, this is painful. Like reason to make yourself anxious. Don't listen to all the stuff that you hear about meditation, right? It's your mind, it's negativity. It happens. And so, so that just the act itself of sitting down and putting yourself first, and then constantly reminding yourself of what good you have, And I do this practice, and I do this with my clients as well, is that the moment when you wake up, you don't touch your phone, you don't do anything. You maybe kiss your wife or husband a little bit, because that's a great thing. And so you focus on yourself, and you literally, okay, what do I have? Because your mind is trained to think like, remember what it doesn't have, work, stress, all that. So if you can get your mind to really start practicing, focusing on what you do have, just that little practice that you do on a consistent basis can help you change, can help you reprogram. Now you got to do more work to feel happier, right? There's that we got to do, but that act in itself will help set up that way. And because when we're feeling grateful, when we feel happy, we're going to start doing things that are happier later on in that day. It'll influence how we work around that day. And the more consistent good days, happy days we have, it reprograms our mind. And so yeah, to answer the question, like it can be easy, but you're going to have that fight. So definitely starting very slowly with that approach.
I love that when you say starting with yourself, that makes a lot of sense. If we cannot be appreciative or grateful towards our own selves, then it's harder to do that for others or other things in our lives. So I love that approach with that first step of appreciating, creating more space for yourself. That's what I have been practicing for over 10 years now. Self-love, self-acceptance. And self-acceptance is a big one, though. A huge component of self-love has been for me, just accepting everything as it is. And then gratitude arises because then I'm able to see the beautiful things that are here in me, in my heart, and then out there too. Focus on yourself. That's a beautiful message, Kia, to pass that on. As a professional, as a therapist, that's really, highly spiritual and effective. And I know it from experience. The article you sent to me was very informative, and it gives us, I read about the benefits of gratitude that included psychological, physical, and emotional.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about the positive emotions and thoughts that will arise by practicing gratitude, and then also helps with improving our immune system. And then emotional will become more empathetic. Of course, they're not limited to these. I just put the main ones here for me. But that's just great to see that as a scientific fact in science. So that's so wonderful, because to me it's almost like second nature, coming from the spiritual perspective. It's like, of course, it's not yet explored, although integrated in the psychology world. So now I see that a lot more, actually, interviewing you beautiful people. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, it's and they even talk about like the act of grateful practices every day is an antidepressant.
Yes, right. Right.
And so
Yeah.
And so it is, and I know for maybe listeners or people like it seems like, okay, well, really does it do it? But yes, it does. And the amount, and because if we think about what leads to health problems, what is the number one reason for that, for health problems, for pain and all that, is stress. Stress is the number one indicator, and if we're not learning to appreciate our stress and handle it and manage it, and really thinking of like the positive side of what we do have, of being grateful and all that, then we're going to allow this stress to basically kill us, destroy us. And so yes, like gratefulness does come a long way to help us with just our overall health.
And speaking of depression and gratitude, there was a quote in that article you sent me that reads, "It is impossible to feel depressed and grateful at the same time," by Naomi Williams, I think her name is. And that's so true. And then they talk also about gratitude and stress, as you mentioned, and then gratitude and grief, gratitude and anxiety. So gratitude is a wonderful medicine. That's what the message really is, a natural medicine. Would you like to add anything else, Kia, that was left unsaid for today?
No, I think that, and just those kind of things that you said at the end of the day, is that, yeah, like you can't be grateful and mad. You can't be grateful and angry or fearful. You can only be one thing, and that's the act of gratitude. And the more you practice it every day, you make it part of your life, the more your brain will naturally pick gratitude eventually. And that will open up just a whole new life of world. And it did for me and my loved ones. And it's such great work. And for you, and you said it for yourself as well. And so, yeah, I just hope that we can definitely, expand that and spread it out to everyone. Everyone deserves that. Every one person in this world deserves a great life, and a life full of meaning and purpose and just happiness.
Right. I agree. Yeah, that's beautiful to hear that. Everybody deserves that. And sometimes it's just kind of understanding the physiology, right, of our physiology, how it works, the brain works, how the body works. And by changing that, then we change the way we think. It's just incredible. What a wonderful machine, if it is one. So what 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
Wow, those are good questions. I guess one, and I know that we all experience this, and I think that, you're like, why would you want to experience it? But I really do think that going through, learning, going through a big obstacle in your life and learning from it, just that in itself. And I know that, and I don't want any problems for anyone, but unfortunately that's life. You will have problems whether you like it or not, how perfect you are in life, you will have problems. But the thing that really opened my life, and I noticed for my clients, is realizing like, wow, like I had these problems, and the reason for these problems was because I was not changing certain things about me, not changing anything about the way I approach things or how I react, how I respond. And so if one thing that I would love for everyone to experience is like learning to learn from your obstacles and challenges. And, and I hope that nothing big problems ever arise, but it's something that it's part of life and what we have to do. And I think if you can, get good at learning from your obstacles and challenges, we'll go on to kind of the next step, which is, really learning to like love. And I know that's like my top value that we did, but learning to love and being loved, and people loving you for who you truly are, and being able, because when you when you can be who you want to be. If you can be like, I love to be a child. I'm a little kid in heart. I love kids. Like I will get down on the floor, do dance moves. We'll do everything together. And even with my wife, I'm very like a child at times.
Yeah.
But if you can really allow yourself to be you, you will see how many people love and appreciate that person. It's such an amazing experience to have. And, I work with me and my clients, and it's been so great. So having that. And then, the last thing is, this is challenging, but, I guess what kind of comes to mind is, I really love meditation. Meditation, you get to really sit with yourself. It's so peaceful, especially when you practice and you improve in it. If you can do the act of meditation every day, or at least 4 to 5 times a week for yourself, you'll be able to really, that self-mastery of how you feel, who you are, and what you want, you'll be so good at it. And you will sometimes learn, like, what are things around you that you want to improve, and maybe what are things around you that are not best for you. And it comes in meditating. And so for anyone that hasn't do it, I definitely would, highly encourage that, trying meditation, make it part of your life before we leave.
I hear wisdom when I hear those. I mean, when I hear you, because that's what comes to my mind. That's healing. The journey of healing turns into wisdom. And then now that wisdom is expanding into sharing that with others. It's just so beautiful. Thank you so much, Kia, for being you.
Of course. Thank you.
And before we say goodbye for today, where can we find more information about you, your work, services, and future projects?
Yes, you can find my website is Resilience Counts, Resilience, and then Counts is COUNS.com, where you can find my coaching. We have a very unique coaching program that is not anywhere else in the world, so that's great. And then you'll find places where you can message me if you want therapy services. And then also I'm on Instagram and TikTok. It's called the Resilience Coach Kia.
Wonderful. I'll have your website link and your podcast profile. Clickable. Thank you so much again, Kia, for your presence here today. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Kia Ebadat and his work, please visit resilience.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.